Hey guys, there were a couple of you that asked me questions on your homework from last night, so I just wanted to go over your homework. Also, there were several of you that didn't answer the questions completely. You just wrote if it was what was independent and what was dependent and completely ignored the writing it as a relationship with words and equation part, which is the title of this lesson. So make sure that you're answering all parts completely. I just wanted to go through these questions instead of sending you back the correct answers. It's easier for you to actually hear it explained versus me just giving you the answers and you not understanding where they came from. So when you are looking at this homework page, number 1, 2, and 3 have tables on them, which was the title of this lesson, was doing relationships in words and tables. So on your homework, at the very, very top, I know it is not next to number 1, it is above number 1, but it is in bold words. Please read all of your directions. It tells you to use the table to describe the relationship between quantities. It tells you to identify the independent and the dependent variables. So you should have those listed. Some of you did that and only that, and some of you did the relationship part and didn't do the variable part. Then it tells you to describe the relationship with words and with an equation, and then to complete the table in exercise 2. So what you see on the screen right now is those directions, and then what number 1 looks like on your piece of paper. Other than I added independent, dependent, relationship with words, and equations, because you should have 4 answers to your question. So looking at this, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and find my independent and my dependent variable. So a lot of the questions that we've done with total cost have been a little bit different because now I have a total discount. So in this case, it's kind of backwards from what we have been doing. So your dependent variable in this case is the discount. So your discount or your total discount amount depends upon the cost of the items. So how much money you spend is going to give you a certain discount. Okay, so if something's 10% off, or that means if you spend $10, you're going to get $1 off. If you spend $20, you're going to get $2 off. Just a quick example. So the dependent variable, and I'm going to type this out really quick. Your dependent variable is the discount. Okay, and then your independent variable would be the cost of the items. Okay. So before I figure anything else out, because I can't do an equation without figuring out what the relationship is, remember in the video yesterday, I mentioned that there can kind of be 2 ways that you can find the relationship. So one of those is subtraction, and then the other one is division. So if I look at this just quickly, if I were to subtract these things, 20 minus 3 would give me 17, and then 50 minus 7.5 would give me 42.5. So they're already not the same. If you want to keep going, you can. 100 minus 15 is 85. 200 minus 30 would give you 170. So the subtraction is not the relationship because they're not the same every time I do it. And I accidentally just erased my cost of items. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to use division to do this. So I'm going to take my total discount, my 3, and divide it by 20. If you guys want to use a calculator for this part, that is fine. The important part of this is you writing the equation and you finding the relationship. So if it is easier for you to use a calculator, I would rather you not stress out about dividing incorrectly. So use a calculator. So I'm going to take my total discount and divide it by the cost, which would give me 0.15. Then if I take 7.5 and divide it by 50, I also get 0.15. If I do 15 divided by 100, I also get 0.15, and then 30 divided by 200 would also give me 0.15. If you divide it the other way around, and you do 20 divided by 3, you'll get 6.6. 50 divided by 7.5 also gives you 6.6. So either way you guys divide it, it's going to be the same thing. But you need to make sure you're taking your dependent and dividing it by your independent, because when you write your equation, okay, and just bear with me, when you write your equation, your independent is going to be the number that you either add to or you either multiply by. So your dependent variable, so this is going to be your end result. So yesterday when we looked at examples, and we talked about independent and dependent, if somebody was selling necklaces for $9 a piece, I would multiply the number of necklaces. So let's say I sold 10 necklaces and they're $9 a piece. I'm multiplying the amount that I sold, which would have been independent, by that number, the relationship number of being $9 a piece, to equal $100. Okay, so my dependent is always at the end of the equal sign. My dependent variable is my equals dependent. Okay, so when I am writing my equation, I have the independent. If you just want to use I and D as your letters, that's fine. So I'm going to write my equation over here so I have some space. So it is my independent, or my cost of the items. I'm going to have a number right here, and I will explain that in a second. And then it is equal to my discount. So in this case, because I divided them, and because I divided 3 by 20, or 7.5 by 50, and got 0.15, that is the number that is going to go right here. Okay, I'm going to explain why I did that. Because if I go back, so this was my dependent and this was my independent. So if I look back at my equation, I'm multiplying that number by the cost of the item. So if I multiply now 20 times 0.15, it gives me 3. If I were to have picked this number right here, and I multiply 20 times 6.6, and it was really like 0.66666, it gives me 133, which is not equal to 3. So you can kind of check yourself in some of these examples. So this one is a little bit more difficult just because your total is actually smaller than your start. So it's because it's really a percent. Your discount is a percentage. So this one was a little bit more difficult, but I just wanted to explain it. So if I were to write this as the relationship with words, I'm just writing the cost of items times 0.15 equals my discount. Okay, so you're just actually writing out what C and D stand for. So moving on to the second example, and this one is a little bit easier to understand. So again, I have independent, dependent, relationship with words, and equations. So I'm going to first find my independent and my dependent variables. So I have lawns mowed was, and my table gives me 3, 4, and 8, and then it gives me the amount earned. So first of all, if I am mowing lawns, if I mow one lawn, it's going to change how much I earn. So how much I earn depends upon how many lawns I mowed. So my dependent variable is the amount of money that I earn, which would mean my independent variable is the number of lawns that I mowed. Okay. So in order to find the relationship, I need to first figure out what that is. Again, if you subtract, 96 minus 3 is 90. Sorry, I said the answer. 96 minus 3 is 93. 128 minus 4 is 124. 256 minus 8 would give you 248. So none of those are the same, which means my relationship is not subtraction. So I need to figure out how much money, or what I'm really finding out is how much money I earn when I mow one lawn. So I'm going to divide 96 by 3. So 96 divided by 3 gives me 32. When I subtract or divide, 128 divided by 4, I also get 32. And then when I divide 256 by 8, I also get 32. Okay, so 32 is my relationship. So I'm going to write my equation. So what my independent was, and then in my equation, I'm going to multiply by 32. So my independent was my number of lawns mowed. So I would have, I'm just going to do L for lawns. If you chose a different letter, that is fine. So I have L times 32 is equal to the amount that I earned, or if you want to do A or M for money, whichever. Okay, so the number of lawns multiplied by $32 per lawn is going to give me my total result. So in the word form, it would be number of lawns mowed times 32 equals money made. Okay, or you can write amount earned. So the other part that number 2 asked you to do was to fill in the blank. Okay, it did not tell you what number to fill the blank in with. So if you wanted, as long as it was somewhere between 4 and 8. So if you did 5, 6, or 7, that was fine. If you chose 5 as this number, your bottom number would have been 160. If you chose 6 and did 6 times 32, it would have been 192. Or if you chose 7 and did 7 times 32, this would have been 224. So as long as you had one of these 3 things in that missing part of the table, your answer was correct. Okay, so that is how you write equations. So looking at this next question, and this was the one that most of you were confused by because there were more than 2 rows. So the scenario says it cost Jessica and 2 friends $29.97 to eat at a buffet where the price is a flat rate per customer. Use the information for number 3 and number 4. So this is all that the chart gave you. And it actually had this filled in with 29 with 29.97 in this box. Okay, so You know, for 3 friends, it costs $29.97 to eat there. So I'm going to go ahead and start by filling in the side of the chart with the missing pieces. So this top part would be the number of meals or number of people. So either way, so for 3 meals or 3 people, it costs $29.97. So then that would mean this box is then the cost for 1 person, 2 people, 3 people. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in this top part first. So in order to do that, for 3 people, if it costs $29.97, I'm going to take $29.97 and divide it by 3 people to find the cost per 1 person. When you do that, it costs $9.99. So now I can easily fill in the rest of the chart. So I'm going to do $9.99 times 2 to find out the cost for 2 people, which is $19.98. Then for 4 people, it would be $9.99 times 4, which is going to give me $39.96. And then for 5 people, it would be $9.99 times 5, which is going to give me $49.95. Okay, so I know the cost per 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. So then it says difference and quotient. So what this is asking you to do is it's asking you to find the relationship between them. So it just put that information in a chart, but this is really what you guys have been doing. So if I'm finding the difference of this, I'm subtracting. Some of you did $9.99 minus 1 and got 9.98, but that 1 is a whole, not a penny. So when you subtract it, it would be $8.99. When I subtract this one, it would be $18.98. $29.97 minus 3 would be $26.97. Then I would have $35.96, and then $49.95 minus 5 would be $44.95. Then for quotient, you are ignoring the difference row, and then you are finding the quotient. So taking the cost and dividing it per person. So I am doing $9.99 divided by 1 would be $9.99. $19.98 divided by 2 is going to give me $9.99. $29.97 divided by 3 is going to give me $9.99. When I divide these two, it will give me $9.99 and $9.99, or it should give you $9.99 if you multiplied correctly. Okay. Again, if you want to use a calculator, that is fine. I would rather you not stress out about multiplying or dividing or adding or subtracting. I would rather you get those answers correct if you use a calculator. Okay. So number 4, number 3 only asked me to complete the table. So my table is done. Number 4 asked me to identify the independent and dependent variables and then also write an equation. So I'm going to start with my independent and dependent variables. So my 2 things that I was focused on was the number of meals and then the cost of the meals. So what is changing is my cost of the meal. My total cost depends upon the number of meals that I'm buying. So my dependent is the cost, and then my independent is the number of meals or number of people, however you wrote that out. And then I'm going to write my equation, okay? So the difference that you used was $9.99. That was the difference that they all, or the quotient, the relationship that they all had in common was $9.99. So what I was doing was I was dividing. So your equation is actually going to be the opposite of what you did. So if it was subtracting, you would then be adding. So remember when I said with your equation, your dependent or your cost is going to be your equal to that. So I'm going to take my independent, so my number of meals. So I'm going to do meals times my difference, which was $9.99. And that is what I found with my costs. So that is my equation, is the number of meals multiplying it by $9.99 to give me the total cost. Okay. And then the last question, and I'm just going to explain this, I'm not going to type it out. It says, compare writing an equation when the pattern in the table shows a common difference versus a common quotient. So if there is a difference, meaning subtraction, versus a common quotient, like this last example that we did, I found a common quotient, so my equation actually had multiplication in it. If I have a common difference, so it was a subtraction difference, I would actually be adding that. And that was something that was in, that is in your homework today. There's a question in your homework today that says y equals x plus 3. So it was the number of pages that you were assigned that day plus 3 extra. So it may be a difference or it may be a quotient. So you're really just adding or multiplying. So that's what the difference between those two is. So I hope this helps make better sense of these examples. You have the correct answers now. If you still have questions, please reach out to me. If you have questions, please ask me when you get to it. Please don't sit there and struggle with it. I am more than willing to help you. Text me, email me, call me, whatever you need to do, and I will help you guys. So I hope this helped you better understand it, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.